out, go out. As I walked up our Chinaman stairs, I heard our Chinaman say his prayers. This is what he said. Visi, visi, bunga, bunga, bunga. My mother and your mother were pegging out the clothes. My mother gave your mother a punch on the nose. What colour was their blood? R-E-D spells red and O-U-T says out.
Do you remember when you were a kid? Your favourite place was the corner sweet shop, wasn't it? That's mine there. I went past the other day and I saw that sign, Mary Coker, Sweets and Ices. And it reminded me what it was all about. Mary Coker, Sweets and Ices, corner shop on Wellington Road. I was passing by your doorway, suddenly saw you, haven't I grown? Mary Coker, Mary Coker. I remembered school and school days, history lesson, lower 4C. Then running to your shop at dinner time, I don't suppose you remember me. Mary Coker, Mary Coker. I remembered one November, very dark and rainy day. You gave me a sherbet fountain to call my cares away. Mary Coker, you're no older in my school day memory. That rainbow world of rainbow colors, you remember me. Oh no.
15 years ago, I used to live in a terrace street in Potteries. Longton I used to live, neck end as they used to call it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my old next door neighbour, old Grandad Piggott. Old Grandad used to drink a lot. He could turn his pension into ale faster than Charlie Foskett could knock a wart off a dray horse's bottom lip. And he's been a vet for 45 years. He was evil, old Grandad was. We'd got a barometer in the passage as could tell when he was coming home from the pub. You'd hear him, he'd go banging down to the lavatory, filthy with ale and temper. Then he'd start on his messes. Like this, pack these bloody bags and go. I'm the gaffer in this ice, I'd see. Big stiff woman it was with no teeth. And a face like a welder's bench. I couldn't have bought you, but I could give you a nasty suck. Oh, but they were always foeing out, old Grandad and his missus one. Birds wouldn't nest in the eaves, they knowst. Well, one day, all was quiet, and all of a sudden, smash! Something hefty hit the wall. Then we heard Nana Piggott start. You dirty old pig! You had your filthy nicotine fingers in my savings tin again. Well, Annie, he says. Anna touched the savings tin. They stabbed their fingers in my savings tin. He says, woman, how'd this? Wallop. How'd Grandad dealt her 8 clock winder? Well, there was such a yelp, and her come flying round our place. I'd give her one her 8. I got a 75-watt ear hole with half an hairnet hanging on it. I really thickened it up, the nost. Really done it good, he had. So, of course, I sits down, has a good blart. I says, I'll say to him, I'll say that old tup 6 foot under with a wooden stake through his heart. I says, when he goes, I says, I ain't having a gravestone. Oh, no. I says, he's having a post. I says, and it'll be put in a spot where plenty of bloody dogs go past. Face down, he'll go, I says, with his hands tied behind his back. Then they'll go forward to the concrete line top, just make sure they don't get right. Well, I saw out Grandad in the pub that later on that night. He says, I'm ever so sorry about hitting me missus. I says, so you should be. He says, no, not that sorry. He says, only knocked her halfway across the kitchen. He says, 2 years ago, I could have made an impression on her in that dough. Mind thee, I used to have an old mate in them days, Nostrils Moffat. I was a big omegoon with no brains and a chest like a busted settee. And he used to live round the block from us. And one day, his motorbike ran out of petrol in the box. So, of course, he's messing about with it. And he's got a bleach bottle, full of petrol, say, and he left it behind Grandad Piggott's back gate. So they took it in. Do light fire with, he says. So, of course, a bit after, now Pigott comes across this bleach. Bleach, only a tanner a bottle in them days. Decides to clean the cars he ate. Good dollop on it, down the hole, round the rim there. Make sure it goes under that U-bend, the nost. It went under the U-bend, all right. A bit after old Grandad sitting there on the throne. Smoking away, you know. 95 mile an hour they come out of there. Got his braces under the door, catapulted back, jowled his head on the pan, and nearly swallowed toilet roll. I tell you what, it's a good job his shirt neck was undone, else it would have lifted him over Trentham Gardens. I went to see him in hospital. Burns unit he was in. Sister says, it shook him up a bit and it shifted the wax out to his ears. But apart from that, he's all right. Anyway, old Grandad says after the nost, he says, it must have been them cucumber sandwiches. Well, now I've brought level the conversation down a bit, I'm off. I'll say the...
Gather round and I'll give you some men of pottery fame. Robert Le Potter of Thursfield begins the list of names. Thomas Toft of Tinker's Clough, Josiah Spode of Stoke, the Ely brothers of Bradwell Wood. The Wedgwoods was the big house, the Masons was the Dell, the Alcocks was the hilltop, the Ridgeways was the bell. From Fifers came the red ware, from Longton Hall the blue, the tortoiseshell from Fenton Low. The Malkins and the Adamses, the Wildens and the Woods, the Lindlers and the Warburtons, the Turners and the Tops. The towns were made of pot banks, the pot banks made the towns, the wares are known the world around. There's cups, there's plates, there's suturies, there's bowls that dip your bread, there's ornaments of porcelain, there's things that go under your bed, so show 'em right under your bed.
Who'd be a potter, I'd like to know, with prices so high and wages so low. You toil like sweating blackamoors to satisfy your master, and each day you breathe the clay, you die a little faster. So who'd be a potter? I'd like to know.
When I was young, the hours were long. The master had a hand of steel, and ragged boys would stand for hours on end by the hammer and the wheel. In those sad days, young men were aged, their wages paid at alehouse doors, while prosperous masters did such wondrous trade by the products of the poor. But I could dream of happy times when drudgery seemed far away, and all the banners in the street proclaimed, Britons never shall be slaves.
These are the ATV studios at Elstree, where they built an outdoor set for their production of Clayhanger, adapted from the novel by Arnold Bennett.
Stand by, everybody, please. We're going to go for another take on this. Don't forget the first kit, instrument stand.
Okay, how you fixed?
Stand by, please.
Okay, how you fixed, David?
We're ready. Roll the tape.
Rolling tape, please.
Scene 43, slate 52, take 2. Take.
Bennett wrote many stories about life in the potteries, but he called them the Five Towns, and this label remains. He thought five sounded better. He missed out Fenton, and it never forgave him.
Bottle ovens and saggers are almost things of the past. There isn't many places using them today in the potteries. I'm Ralph Wheeldon, and I'm one of the 4 last sagger makers. The saggers are to protect the ware in the bottle ovens during the firing. They say the proper name is a safeguard, and I'm never known to be called any other, only a sagger. The maul comes in loads, 6 or 7 ton at a time. Probably have 3 tonner sides and 3 tonner bottoms. The bottoms has got bigger grog in and more grog in. We cut the bats off the side maul, and each one, as you throw it on the frame, has to be lapped over at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches to make sure as they're well knitted together. After that, you trim it as near as possible as you can to the thickness of the frame. Bill uses a grafter to cut his dumps of marl, and he has to cut them as near as he can to the proper weight, because you've only got to have them a thickness to the ring. Before you start mowing, you scatter it with sawdust, and that helps it from sticking. These mows, what we use, are made of oak, and they have to be soaked in water, because if you don't soak them in water, when you're mowing, the marl will stick to it. Anyway, when you're mowing the frame in, you start from the back, and as you're mowing, you pull down it and pull sideways, and every part of the marl as you mow, you'll notice the mow goes over where you first started, until you get to the end of the frame, and then you know as the frame is solid, and this is the sides of your sag. After you've mowed your frame in, you get your measuring stick, and you've got various heights, and you mark them off with your knife, and you've got to see as they're level. After you've marked them off, you use your rule for cutting out. Now once you put the rule on, and it's got to be on the lines as you've marked, you've got to hit the rule to make sure the suction of the marl holds the rule, because if you get one end higher or lower, then you've got what they call a miscut. So you have to hold it dead level, and then you cut through each marking as you've done, and that is the sides of your sagging. We've got 8 minutes to fill the frame and mow it in and cut it out. Bill, after he's knocked the bottom, gets an iron plate and pulls the bottom onto the plate, and then puts it on to the wheelie, ready for the sagger maker, is going to roll the side of the sagger off the frame and put it onto the bottom. I started when I was 14, bottom knocking, and that was bottom knocking for 2 sagger makers, and then you had a frame fella. And you used to have to keep at least 5 to 6 bottoms in front of the sagger makers, because if they were waiting, you'd only got one, and the other sagger maker hadn't got a bottom to put on his wheelie, then you were for it, and you got a real good cossie. It takes 3 minutes to knock a bottom. It was £1 a week when I started. Frame fella was on £2, and the top sagger makers be on about £7, £8. Of course, in them days, you had to wait for a sagger maker to die before you could get on. a wheelie. Because nearly every pot bank carried one or two, some carried 3, 4. All your tools are made by yourself. You use pieces of oak wood and you cut them to the shape and sizes as you want. You have what they call a topping stick, which you make out of wood. You have what they call a topping tool, that is 10, strong 10. Years ago we used to use the old Coleman's mustard, signs 10. But now today, like, you can get the pieces of 10 strong stuff off the frame as you make the topping tools with. The piece of wood as I'm bannering top of the sagger with is to just show us the top of the sagger is level. After it's bannered and you've lifted it on your head, then you take it into the otters for dry. My last job is, when they're dry, to take them out to the sagger house for the places to handle. I wished I'd got £1 for every sagger as I'd made, because I've done 47 years at it.
The placers carried the saggers on their shoulders or heads. They put a rolled-up stocking inside their hats to protect their heads and keep the sagger steady.
Okay. Well, a bit top heavy. Looks a bit top heavy to me, Les. We get 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. We'll put 9 saggers. So we get 9 saggers ready. Get 9, and let's finish it off. Very clean. Good on it. Good chin.
To begin with, the temperature was kept low while the moisture in the ware was driven out. Then baiting increased until, in about 48 hours, a maximum temperature of between 1,000 and 1,250 degrees centigrade was reached. The temperature was partly controlled by altering the position of the crown dampers and by the fire doors and regulating holes.
Dampers down. Want a poker? You got a little poker for it? Huh? Poker. Just get on with that.
Trial rings were taken from the different quarters of the oven towards the end of the firing. The firemen measured their contraction on a scale, and this indicated the stage the firing had reached. the end of the firing, the dampers were adjusted, the fire doors opened, and the fires allowed to go out. To hasten the cooling, the Clemens was pulled down.
Now, we've told you about some of the famous foodstuffs from Stoke, your oatcakes, your lobby, but some of the things we eat are a bit wider spread. But you've got to beware of these that don't have the pottery's pedigree, as witness this very moral tale. Me mam bought a king-sized black pudding. It was matte black and greasy and round, and as she carried it back home from Fenton, its knotted ends furrowed the ground. It looks like a cart horse's collar, jibes the neighbours that live down our street. But they needn't have laughed, the mean devils. It was too big a monster to eat. We had black pudding yoghurt for breakfast. We had black pudding butties for tea. We even had black pudding souffle. Now, that was the last straw for me. So I staggered out down to the woodshed, where the pudding was kept lurking low. I reached for me dad's sharpest hand axe and raised it to strike the great blow. But as me cold steel flashed and glinted, that black pudding stirred in the shed. It wriggled and writhed and contorted, then lifted its terrible head. It bellowed out smoke from its nostrils. It lashed out its greasy black tail. I locked, chained and bolted the woodshed, but my efforts were to no avail. It soon broke the chains that restrained it. The woodshed was quite burned away. It ravaged the compost and flower beds and ate 15 maidens a day. But chivalry's not dead in Stoke yet. So I set out hot foot on me feet, and I journeyed to Longton town's Camelot at 53 Edinburgh Street. I summoned Horatio Cartledge, who mounted his trusty white steed. He picked up his lance from the privy, then rode off to our house at speed. Now, a crowd had soon filled our back garden. A man from the Sentinel were there, and they gazed on in awe and amazement to see how Horatio would fare. Well, the pudding, it reared up all angry. It arched up its greasy black back. But Horatio, noble as ever, stood firm while it planned its attack. The monster careered down the garden, then slewed round to charge from the south. But noble Horatio Cartledge impaled the brute through its great mouth. Right. Thank you. Now, the people there cheered and applauded, and they wrote to the mayor to commend that noble Horatio Cartledge be made patron saint of Neck End. So all you good folk round the Midlands, you stick to eating pork pies, 'cause those innocent-looking black puddings are just dragons in cunning disguise.
No big-name entertainment personality ever came to Stoke-on-Trent. Never mind Neck End, they said. They were wrong. The night spot opened and the top stars came. Not just from Britain and Europe, but all over the world. But this week, after 8 years of the best in entertainment, the people of Neck End were dealt a savage blow. Another victim of the recession.
But for the last 4 years, January has been a special month in Jolly's calendar. For during 1 week, over 10,000 people have packed in here. They ate 1.5 tons of chips, 800 12-inch sausages, and swilled it all down with 32,000 pints of beer. And they were joined by millions more on BBC TV for the Embassy World Darts Championship.
Take him on like the rest of them. One dart could give him the World Championship double 16.
That's just a few bars of The Party's Over, ladies and gentlemen, which I think is particularly appropriate at this moment in time, being the last
evening of Jolly's Theatre Cabaret Club, of course, opening in October 73, being hugely successful up until, of course, now. I've made a lot of friends, many, many friends. It's been a marvellous experience for me. I'm very, very nostalgic. What more can I say? Very, very sorry to see Jolly's go. And never mind, let's hope that sometime in the future, Jolly's or a club similar to Jolly's may reopen again. And so, once again, the party is over.
Hi. Just got a little time to really tell you about what I've been doing for the last 8 years. I've been comparing, of course, here at Jolly's, and that's been voted in the during the last 8 years as one of Britain's best cabaret and theatre clubs. Tonight's our final night. It's the end of a relationship which I've absolutely loved. 8 years ago, when I was travelling on a plane to Jersey, a very old plane, in fact I found Amy Johnson's lunch under my seat. I'd never have thought that I was going to be the compere for the following 8 years of one of the most successful clubs in Great Britain. It really has been a pleasure. I've made lots of friends, I've learnt lots of things. I didn't even know what a cane was for. Look what I can do now. And there you go, that's what you learn in 8 years.
Tomorrow the shutters go up. They said they'd bring the best, and they did. But now, the party's over.
Donna, if you don't mind, would you sing a song for us so we can get everybody sort of... We've tried to, over the last 8 years, I knew this would be difficult for me to say, but over the last 8 years, we've tried to spread a little bit of love and nice feel. If everyone can join hands, and Donna's going to sing a song, we'd like you to join in with that particular song. It's called We'll Meet Again. Join hands, everyone, and sing the song along with us, if you would. Thank you.
Some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do.
Far, far away.
And won't you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long.
Bit louder, bit louder. And join hands as well. Give it a last chance. Join hands. Come on then, here we go. Everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, good night and God bless from all of us here at Jolly's for our cabaret. Come and join us for a dance, everyone, if you'll do that, please. And thank you for being a lovely audience as well on our last night for cabaret. Join us for dancing and enjoy the rest of the evening.
God bless. Goodbye and God bless.
Thank you, Tony. Come and join us for a dance, everyone. Enjoy the evening through till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I think the point about Longton is that I keep saying it's the premier town, and certainly the premier pottery town, because we've got all the major potteries in Longton. We get visitors from all over the world coming to buy pottery, and it seems to me that the town must if you like, be very presentable to show a good image to the people coming into town. The city, as we know, have developed Hanley as the major shopping centre, but I think now they're realising that perhaps all their eggs shouldn't be in one basket and there should be a viable Longton, and now they are altering their outlook on Longton, and now we're getting a situation where the town has been redeveloped, but what we want in Longton now is entertainment. Instead of putting all the entertainment in Hanley, let's have some in Longton.
I quite agree with Mr. Bevan. I think that the Empire should be redeveloped, should be rebuilt and brought back in some kind of a condition that it was. A small civic theatre, 200-300 seater, some entertainment for people of Longton. Myself, I've got to travel 3 miles to Hanley, and on bitter cold nights like this, when you've got no transport, public transport, it's a big effort. Entertainment in Longton would be really worthwhile.
There's no doubt about it. This end's been neglected very, very badly. I mean, considering the catchment area that Longton encloses, I mean, the Mere for starters, Blurton, Trentham, a lot of people at the southern end of the city would like some sort of entertainment here, and really it does demand, in my opinion, some worthwhile progress in this department. I mean, the Gladstone, now then there's a good attraction for this end of the city. Also the new conservation area that's been, well, there's been a lot of money, European money especially, been spent on that. It really is attractive.
Well, this is an important experiment in regenerating a rundown area of the city. It's an experiment which is based very much upon 2 major pillars of heritage and design. And it's really the place that I'm standing in, the museum, that first started the local authority down this road. 5 years ago, the museum was in trouble. The local authority got itself involved by stepping in and bailing out the trust which was responsible for running the museum. And it's from that very small beginning that the local authority began to develop much more ambitious plans for regenerating a much larger area around the museum.
The Gladstone is a working, living museum in Longton, in Stoke-on-Trent. It's not a museum of glass cases, it's a museum that seeks to preserve and present the way of life of the pottery worker of North Staffordshire. As we all know, Stoke-on-Trent's the world's capital of the ceramic industry, and it's the story of the people of that town that we're seeking to preserve. The Urban Pilot Project has enabled us to secure the future of this museum forever, not only by preserving these wonderful bottle ovens and the buildings and the fabric of this Victorian pottery factory, but also to enable us to grow our own business. It is the intention that this museum will be at break-even at a point when it reaches about 70,000 visitors, and we're aiming at hitting 100,000 visitors over the next 3 years. So that move towards business bottom line of financial security must be the best kind of security that you could ever offer any museum, and the Urban Pilot Project has enabled that to happen.
That's it. Okay. Overlap the petal just a tiny bit and keep it the same height. Pick another one up.
So growth at the Gladstone is not just about repairing buildings and securing the fabric of the place. It's also about getting our visitors, our growing number of visitors, more involved in the physical doing of those different crafts. Not just seeing skilled craftspeople doing it, but also having a go themselves. Those messages go home far deeper when you've got clay under your own fingernails than ever they do if you're just watching someone else do it. So we're in the business of growth. Prior to the Urban Pilot Project, this museum was in a sorry state and it was doing little better than 30,000 visitors a year. Within the next 3 or 4 years, as I've said, we're aiming to get 100,000 visitors a year through the place.
Adjacent to the Gladstone is the Roslin Works, a Victorian china works now revitalised as a workspace for a whole range of art and craft activity. Conversion of this redundant historic pottery building creates around 20 designer-maker studios, providing a managed environment for new businesses in all aspects of the arts and crafts.
This is a project which is also very much to do with partnership. It was partnership between the local authority and the trust which was responsible initially for running the museum, It's now partnership with the church in the redevelopment of the church and the surrounding area, and it's partnership with local industry. And I think that the Ceramic Design Centre is a very good example of the new role of local authorities in not only urban regeneration, but in the whole business of economic regeneration.
The Hot House is a state-of-the-art ceramic design centre with a management suite, studios, workshops and computer-aided design and manufacture facilities.
We believe the Hot House is very innovative. It's special because it's based within the heart of the ceramic industry. It's special because it's going to harness the graduates and the university that have the expertise and resource and capability. And through the Hot House, you've actually got a business support centre directly aimed at local people, local business. We do believe it is innovative and special. There isn't anything quite like it.
We can manipulate the shape again or do whatever we want to.
This is located in what is almost without question one of the worst areas, or was one of the worst areas of North Staffordshire. I can say that because I've lived here all my life. And the whole project is enhancing this area in a most exciting way. If you look at the Gladstone Museum, and next door to it the Roslin, which is going to be used for craft potters and craft workers, not necessarily just potters, and look at the environmental improvements, it has been a very worthwhile project.
The general upgrading of the design quarter has included facelifts of buildings fronting the main roads, new street lighting and signs, and various landscaping schemes. Partnership with local businesses has enhanced the appearance of their premises and boundaries. St James Church is at the centre of the quarter and its community.
The City Council came to me and said that they wished to actually renovate the grounds as part of the project of this whole area, and we then started talking about how the grounds could be adapted to produce a more friendly and more pleasant environment around the church itself, because the church is obviously the only green area in this town of Longton. So it's important that we sort of got our heads together and collaborated together to try and do the best for the area. Part of the project has been that we've tried to involve the school children in planting out the beds and taking a general interest in the area and the greenery itself, in the hope that they will feel it's part of their inheritance, in fact.
This is the churchyard.
Part of our role as a church is to obviously help the community and be part of that community, so that within the church itself we've actually developed new community facilities which consists of halls and kitchens and items like that, so that community groups can actually use the building. The grounds themselves therefore lend themselves to activities and community involvement outside as well as inside the church.
Partners are keen to make it work, but are determined for the right reasons to make sure that it works, which is why it was so important for all the right agencies to be involved from the very beginning. I'm left with a very powerful impression that all the key people, all the key organisations are determined to make it work, and it will be a success.
Well, I'm a little bit afeard of this road, because when this road is completed and goes through, I think it will split this town in half. And, well, two halves. I mean, I live on the Dresden area. Now, to get across to the Longton area, this, what shall we say, this east side of, and I'm on the south side, the north side, we'll have to cross a busy road, unless, of course, they put underpasses in. And I think this is going to have a big effect on the people of Longton, Normancourt, Dresden, Gumsmill, the Mere, because they'll have a main road to try and get across.
I think that the access to Longton and the exits, if you like, from Longton will be far better when we have the road, I think now we are suffering from obviously heavy lorries going through Longton. Those will be on the A50, the new A50, and I think Longton will be pedestrianised then. I think the Strand will be pedestrianised, and I think then we'll be a car-free town, if you like. I think then that Longton will grow, and I believe that that's the future of Longton. The upheaval now is like sort of something we've got to put up with for the rebirth of Longton. That's the way I look at it anyway. Although I believe that, if you like, they should not have knocked down the old buildings or the buildings that were in the way until they saw the way clear for redeveloping that part of the road. Now they've knocked down buildings, if you like, that the road will not touch for at least 2 years, and we've lost a lot of old buildings that we could have kept up. For instance, we could have kept the Alhambra up, I believe. I think we made a mistake in not fighting to keep that. We fought to retain the facade, but I believe that if they can alter the course of the road to go around the post office sorting station, they could have altered the course of the road to go around the Alhambra.
And of course the Alhambra, that holds a lot of memories for people. That was one of the rather upmarket cinemas in the district, and was purpose built, of course. It was not a theatre that became a cinema. It was built with the intention of purely cinema. I must admit, I've queued down the side there to the stalls many a time in the foulest weather. I started going there way back, somewhere about in the early 30s, and my mother used to take me. My father used to work rather unsocial hours, so I was her escort, shall we say. And yes, happy memories. A very pleasant, smallish cinema, but very efficient.
I can remember going to the Alhambra when I first came to the Potteries about 40 years ago. And the thing that struck me about the Alhambra was the fact that you weren't given a ticket, you were given a metal disc. It had got an atmosphere all on its own, really. And when everything has happened in those days, when, if you like, the reel finished and they couldn't get another reel on, there was howls went up from the audience. And I understand that the early days they had an orchestra there, and as it's been said, it was a purpose-built cinema which was enlarged when the talkies took over. And the seats were unique, really. They were metal seats. They were entirely different to any other cinema, and it should have been preserved, really. I think we regret that now, that we didn't fight a battle to preserve it, because it holds very dear memories, perhaps second to the Empire, but very dear memories to the people of Normancote and Longton.
It took less than 40 minutes to bring 80 years of Stoke-on-Trent history crashing to the ground. The last of the Potteries' great picture palaces stood directly in the way of the new A50 relief road, and it had to come down. Until this weekend, the facade of the Alhambra was expected to come down as well. But a huge swell of public opinion helped heritage campaigners persuade the road builders to save it at the last minute from being lost.
People love it. It's been a landmark in Normancote for the past 80 years, and no one wants to see it go under the bulldozer. It must be preserved.
The Alhambra goes right back to the days of the silent movies, films such as The Kiss. Purpose-built in 1914, it was one of the great picture houses of Stoke-on-Trent. It was run and eventually owned by Levison Myatt, a local businessman, and his brother Arthur. Together they insisted on a programme of tasteful films, no sex, no violence. But the Alhambra couldn't hold audiences in the face of television. It closed 17 years ago, and until recently was a timber store. The interior remained remarkably intact. Just before it was ripped apart, this former cinema-goer retraced his steps and recalled the memories.
Good times, happy times, brilliant times. Growing up in here, my father used to bring us in that row there when we were kids. And same as say, we used to come here with our friends in the early teens, like, really good, really good.
Barry Reynolds used to show the films, and from the projection room he also had to pull the levers to open and close the curtains.
As a projectionist, you always used to get a buzz out to starting the programme anyway. You know, we'd be waiting all around, you know, till the time to start, 2 o'clock or 1:45, and it'd always just be something, opening the curtains and lowering the lights, changing the colours on the screen, of course.
How much fun was it to go to the Alhambra?
It was great. Us kids just go there, throwing things at one another, you know, whistling. If anybody come on, it'd be like, go on, hit him on the bloody head.
What are your best memories of it?
Which is my courting days, actually. Yes, surprising, isn't it? Yes.
This morning, the contractors began dismantling the facade. They've delayed the progress of the road by 2 weeks while work's carried out. 2 student architects are carefully numbering each brick.
What we're going to do now is to take it down piece by piece, block by block, to preserve it as a piece of local history for the local community. We're going to do this at our cost, as a gesture to the local community, really.
The Alhambra's facade is now being stored until some future date, when someone somewhere should rebuild it.
Well, Longton Market, I would think, without any argument, is the finest market in the potteries, probably the finest market within 30-40 miles. When the town hall battle was in being, and it was won eventually, it was decided by the city council that in addition to refurbishing or rebuilding the town hall, they would refurbish the market. Many people loved the old market, and they still love the old market. I feel many Longton people, they don't like anything too posh. They prefer the old sort of sloping floor market where the stalls were on top of each other. But now, due partly to hygiene and environmental regulations, they've had to update it. It is now a clean, tidy market that is the envy of many other authorities. And although the old market is missed, I believe we had to have a new market, and that was one of the bonuses that the action group obtained for the city, as well as, if you like, of getting the town hall refurbished, restored, and now in use for functions of all sorts.
We were fortunate actually that we did manage to save the town hall, because we found out afterwards that that was supporting the old market building. So all in all, yes, I think it's something to be proud of, and it is a centrepiece of consequence.
Well, I feel that when this road has gone through and Longton is cleaned up, it will be a nice little town.
I think it will indeed compete, and this is the great thing. The southern end of the city will then come into its own, I hope, entertainment-wise, and certainly as far as shopping, stores, etc. I think it will attract people.
Well, although Longton's been modernised in most forms and we've lost a lot of buildings, I think it still retains its Victorian character.
Now, Town Square. Town Square, we're trying to make a conservation area. We have the old railway bridge, we have the old railway, we have the Crown Hotel, we have all the old buildings, the old square. If we can get it cleaned up, we'll have a lovely little square there. Town Hall, Times Square, lovely little town centre.
The whole of the area, the Crown Hotel, the whole of the area should be a conservation area, and it should be brightened up and perhaps cobblestones put back in the centre of it to make it look like its original Victorian start. And the people are resolute and have been loyal to Longton, and I think they will continue to support it forevermore.